right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the December 6th work session. It is 5:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. May I have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hewitt?
Here.
Vice Mayor Sui?
Here.
Commissioner Romanek?
Here.
Commissioner Watson?
Here.
Mayor Orndorff?
Here. I'm going to stand for the salute of the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being conducted in accordance to the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, was advertised, posted, and made available to the public as required by statute. The municipal clerk is directed to include a statement in the minutes of this meeting. Clerk, have there been any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, there was one addition of a closed session discussion item for 2 North High Street under contract negotiations.
Okay, thank you. And presentations?
Yep, we have a presentation tonight by Chief Lippincott. So Chief, floor is yours.
That was fast. That was fast.
You're welcome.
Wait, do you want to start all over and go slow?
So I'm going to have a PowerPoint with some videos, so I don't know if you want to position yourself so you can see
Yeah,
them.
I'll get the lights.
Director Hewitt told me I have an hour and a half. Is that correct?
Or more.
He said, yeah, we're,
Take as much time as you need, Chief.
You'll be here.
let's see here. Okay. So I want to thank the commission for giving me this opportunity. I especially want to thank Director Hewitt, who came to me and said, would you be willing to come to a commission meeting and talk about the fire department and talk about our strengths and our weaknesses, and I don't like weaknesses, but areas for improvement, areas where we can grow. And I said I would be glad to. And it's been an interesting year. Director Hewitt has been very engaged, and he knows I'm not saying that because we're here in front of everyone. I told him this privately. I have a lot of my staff here. I've told them also that he has been a very engaged commissioner, very involved. He's taken every opportunity to learn about the fire department and what we do and meet the staff. And one of the comments he made to me was, as a resident, and even though he was so involved with when we were transitioning from Inspira to our own EMS, he was very involved in that. He really never realized how the fire department operated, how we were staffed. And then we've had some recent fire activity that's been pretty significant, and we've had questions from the community. And what we're finding out is there's a lot of people, they drive down Buck Street and there's like, they see a fire station, they see fire trucks, but do they really know what makes up the municipal fire department? How is it staffed? So we thought this would be a good opportunity to come and present to the commissioners, and then if anyone from the public is tuning in or listening, to learn a little bit about your fire department and where we are now and where we'd like to see ourselves in a few years. So we do have some strengths, and we have some challenges. The strengths, obviously, you're looking at it right here. I have a lot of my staff here, both career and volunteer, and both from the fire and the EMS division. We're fortunate to have an outstanding group of dedicated people who work for the city and volunteer for the city, and that is definitely our strength. And as we talk about challenges, and I talk about staffing and how sometimes we find ourselves a little overwhelmed, the reason that we still get the job done and get what has to be done is because these folks step up and go above and beyond and work in the worst possible conditions, day and night, holidays and weekends, to make sure that the community is safe and that we get our job done. Okay, so a little bit about the Millville Fire Department as it's currently configured. We have 34 full-time employees. 16 of them are firefighters, 17 are EMTs, and we have 1 administrative assistant. Tonight I'm going to concentrate on the fire side of the house. Hopefully in the future, I think these work sessions are great opportunities to learn about the departments, have Chief Feltus come up and possibly do a presentation on our EMS division. But tonight we're going to talk mostly about fire. So I have 16 full-time firefighters, 13 of them are assigned to shifts. And then there's 3 firefighters that work a more traditional Monday through Friday. That would include myself and 2 fire marshals who handle the majority of our fire inspections. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. So I have 13 firefighters assigned to shifts. So that's 1 shift of 5, 2 shifts of 4. They work 24 hours on, 48 hours off continuously. There's no weekends or holidays for firefighters. They're always on duty. They're always working. So we have to provide a certain level of initial coverage using those 16 firefighters. And again, on the EMS side, we'll present that at a later time. So what's the Millville Fire Department do? We respond to about 1,300 fire calls a year. I put in there 26 building fires. Just to expand a little bit on that, I was going to put working fires, but just like any other profession, there's terminology that sometimes people may not understand. In the fire service, a working fire is just what it sounds like at work. It means we showed up and there was work to be done. Lines had to be stretched, ladders thrown. It was a working fire. I use the term building fires because I think that maybe comes across a little bit more clear, but we averaged 26 over the last 3 to 5 years, 26 building fires a year. So that's twice a month. We're responding to a significant fire. Also, I should have told you, every picture that you're going to see in this PowerPoint is a fire that's occurred in the city of Millville in the last 2 years. I know we have some people here from the media, and I don't want to beat them up, but you don't see a lot in the local newspapers anymore about big fires. And I have family members say, oh, the fire department's been quiet. I'm like, well, we had 3 house fires last week. And they're like, well, I didn't see anything in the newspaper. But if you're on social media, the fire department has a very active Facebook page. We have a presence on social media. And some of the South Jersey fire sites will show that the pictures and things from the fires. So 26 actual serious working fires a year to a month. How does that compare? My staff will back this up. What do they call us in the county? The fire factory. We have more actual working structure fires than any other fire department in the county. Vineland goes to a lot more calls, but and they're probably close, but you look at the size of Vineland and then you look at the size of Millville. You look at the size of the Vineland Fire Department, you look at the size of the Millville Fire Department. We work hard. These guys are responding to working fires, and they're doing a lot of actual firefighting compared to a lot of departments. And a lot of that's just a makeup of the community and things like that. There's a lot of factors to go into that, but we have a reputation not only in the county but throughout South Jersey as if you want to be in a fire department that gets a lot of work and you get a lot of experience, you want to be with the Millville Fire Department. Again, we'll talk about EMS, but just as for comparison, 7,200 EMS calls a year. Again, Chief Feltus will confirm it's only second to Vineland. So we have the second busiest EMS squad in the county. And jump back, so you say 1,300 fire calls, but there's only 26 building fires or structure fires. Well, what the heck else is the fire department doing for the other 1,200 and some calls? Pretty much, if you have a problem, you call the fire department. It seems we will solve your problem, or we'll try to help you. And they'll attest to that. We go to water leaks, yes, cats and trees, more serious things, gas leaks, motor vehicle crashes. We do a lot of assists on EMS. That's another challenge that we have now that our EMS division is part of the fire department. There's more opportunities where we're sending firefighters or fire apparatus to assist on scenes, gunshots, stabbings, cardiac arrest, where you need lots of hands to help out. That's another aspect that the fire department now has taken on, where an ambulance is going to respond, and depending on the situation, they may have the on-duty fire crew come out and lend them assistance. So they stay pretty busy running calls. Inspections, I mentioned, so the fire department also enforces the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code in the city, so it's a state fire code. The state gives every community the opportunity to be their own enforcing agency for the fire code. Millville chose many years ago to do that. One of the reasons is it gives you local control, which is a good thing. The other thing is that the revenue generated from inspections now comes back to the city of Millville. I have an annual revenue, and I know our CFO is here, but somewhere in the range of $130,000 to $150,000 that comes back as revenue to the city through our inspection permit. It's very similar to like construction with the Uniform Construction Code, where the money comes back. So we use some of that money. It can only be used for certain things related to the inspection program, but we're very creative, and we use that money. Our administrative assistant, who, like any other administrative assistant, pretty much runs the fire department office and administrative stuff. Her salary is paid through this, through the inspection money that we bring in. And we're also able to use it to buy some gear, radios, and uniforms, because the firefighters, if they do inspections, then it's eligible to use that revenue. So it's been a very good thing for us. As you can see there, we do 900 to 1,000 fire inspections a year. That's why I have 2 firefighters that are assigned on days as fire marshals. They do the majority of what we would call the life hazard inspections and the fire safety permits, like cooking permits. They're doing the inspections, and they're also doing all the complaint inspections and the follow-ups. They'll also do follow-ups if a firefighter on a shift does a smaller inspection, but they find a major problem, they kick it over to the fire marshal, who goes out and takes care of that. If you're wondering how do other fire departments do it, that's very similar. Vineland and Bridgeton both use full-time inspectors during the day to do it. We tried in the past to have only the firefighters assigned to shifts do the inspections, where they work 24 hours and they're off for 48. It was not a good setup. Things would get missed. It was not good customer service when you go out and do an inspection and you don't come back to work for 2 days or maybe 4 or 5 days if you had a vacation day. So we elected, previous commission, we hired some more firefighters, and we decided to put 2 of them on days to take that over. And I can tell you that last year, and I believe, Director, you read the letter that we got from the division. We were audited by the Division of Fire Safety, and we were found to be one of the better performing local enforcement agencies in the state. He came in and said, I really have no issues, anything that needs corrected or fixed in your fire prevention program, and I attribute that to the fact that we have the day staff that takes care of that. And the other thing is our firefighters. So when I start talking about volunteers and staffing issues, obviously it's critical. It's most critical during the day. So having what volunteers I do have that are coming out, that's mostly nights and weekends. We're a little shorter during the day. Having 2 more firefighters on during the day has helped us with that. So staffing, so our minimum daily staffing is 3 firefighters on duty 24/7. Again, I have 1 shift to 5, 2 shifts to 4, so if you have a shift to 4, someone's going to be off, sick, vacation, personal, whatever it might be. So we allow 1 person to be scheduled off per shift, so that takes us to 3. And that's not considered ideal according to national standards. I'll talk a little bit with that coming up, but that's our current minimum. And we do use not a lot of overtime for shift coverage, a fair amount. We annually exhaust our overtime budget, and there's due to some factors as far as staffing, but also there's a lot of mandatory training. And I don't know if anyone just read in the press of Atlantic City, where the state has just said there's going to be more mandatory training for first responders on electric vehicles. Well, every time the state comes out and says we're going to have additional training and it's mandatory, then the staff has to attend it. There's no money attached to it. They don't send a check to the city of Millville to say, oh, by the way, we passed a new law and here's some money. So I will inevitably, we'll schedule the classes. We try to do them on shifts, but with volunteers and scheduling instructors, a certain amount of that training will also involves overtime, as it does with other departments. So that's one of the challenges that we have. So I have 16 active volunteers. That number fluctuates, slightly from year to year. But to give you a perspective, that's down from over 50 in the 1990s. When I joined the fire department in 1991 as a volunteer, there was well over 50 active volunteers. We're now down to 16. Is that unique? No, that's very commonplace throughout the fire service. Any fire service journal or website you go to, you will be able to find articles about decline in volunteers. It's no different than any other civic organization that are struggling to get volunteers. And when it comes to the fire department, the training, and I just had mentioned mandatory training, so it's not just, well, I want to sign up and become a firefighter. You've got to complete fire school, and once you do that, then you have no matter whether you get a paycheck or you're a volunteer, you have to have the same training standards. So volunteers have to meet the same training standards as a full-time firefighter. That has impacted on not just in Millville, but across the country, on the amount of volunteers that are still willing to come out and do that job. And obviously that has impacted the fire department with our response and our staffing. The other thing that has changed is when we had 50-plus volunteers, we had a lot of volunteers that lived what I would call in the grid, in the core of the community. They get to the fire station quickly, man the other trucks, and come to the fire. The volunteers, this the small remaining segment that we have, many of them don't live directly in town. They live more out in the periphery or the Fifth Ward. Now we're talking 6, 7, 8 minutes for them to drive to the fire station, get in the fire apparatus, and respond to the scene. So the community's changing, the fire department's been changing, and to keep pace with that, and you know, we're looking forward in the next few years that we're going to need to make some more additional changes in order to be able to continue to provide the level of service that we do. So right now, so I said we staff one engine with 3 firefighters at a minimum, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. On average, when we receive a report of a fire, we are on location in 5 minutes and 32 seconds. You're going to see a slide coming up where the national recommendation is 4 minutes. In Millville, that's tough. We're 44 square miles, 1 fire station. So that's one of the challenges that we have, is that we cover a very large geographic community. And there's not a lot that we can do about the size of the city. But actually, I found the 5 minute 32 seconds to be pretty good when you think of some of the runs that we have to make to East Millville and West Millville. The second apparatus, which typically would be staffed by volunteers on a major fire, arrives in about 10 minutes. Okay, and those numbers are going to be important when I get to another slide coming up. So one of the things there I want you to note, so the first apparatus arrives 5 minutes and 32 seconds. Roughly, it's 4.5 minutes before the next truck arrives on the scene. So now these 3 firefighters have to get everything going and attack the fire, and they don't have any backup or support on typically for about 4.5 minutes. What does happen is during the day, obviously, my fire inspectors are responding in their vehicles. I'm on call 24/7, so I'm usually out the door if I'm home and available, and I'm responding to get there to try to be that 4th person and to lend a hand. And it works, but it's not the most ideal situation. My wife does like me to go out of town once in a while or go to dinner and things like that, so I can't always be there. But we make it work, but it's becoming a challenge. So our goal, what's our goal? We want to staff 1 engine 24/7 with 4 firefighters. Right now, like I said, we can do 3. We'd like to get to 4. 4 is kind of a magic number, and it's not a number that is just kind of like something we picked. There's a national standard, and we'll talk about that. We're close, but we're going to need over time from the commission, who we've gotten a lot of support in the past from, is to continue to get that support. We need to continue to add additional full-time firefighters so that we can get to that goal of 4 firefighters on duty. And I understand the constraints of the budget. I've lived in Millville my entire life. I'm a taxpayer. I understand, and talk with the CFO and the director, and I know there's challenges in the budget. But all I am asking is that we try to make this a priority, and every year when we do the budget, look to see, is there a way we can add some more staffing so we can get to the point where we can get to this goal. So in the upcoming budget, and I know it's only a request, I am asking to hire 2 firefighters. That would take our full-time staff to 18. Then that would be 15 on shifts. So that would be 3 shifts of 5. If I have 3 shifts of 5, we're going to have 4 more frequently than we do now. Still, there's going to be time off. There may be times where 2 people are off. We have to look at whether we'd use overtime to add that 4th person. But we've built this up. When I was hired approximately 20 years ago, there was 9 career firefighters, and the chief. So that was 10, and we're at 16 now. So we have grown the staff over time. And I get it, we can't go out and hire 10 or 12 firefighters tomorrow, but I would like to continue what we have done in the past, to add 1 or 2 as we can to keep incrementally building that staff up. As a comparison, I thought this was helpful because when I've talked to previous commissions, and I'll tell you that it's the first time I've done it at a work session, but every commission, I've been chief for 7 years, and every year at budget time, I've made similar presentations to the other commissioners about what some of our challenges are and what we need to do. And like I said, they've responded. We have hired additional staff, over that time, but this is not the first time that I put this together. And I've been asked, at other ones, I was asked, well, how do we compare to Bridgeton? Because Bridgeton seems to be a similar sized community, and it's right here in the county. So I thought I would bring that up again since I was asked by previous commissions, well, where do we stand with Bridgeton? So if you look there, you'll see Bridgeton has 21 full-time firefighters compared to our 16. Just so you know how that works, they have 18 on a shift and 3 on days. So Millville, it's 16. We have 3 on days, so it mirrors Bridgeton. Basically, they have a chief, and then they have actually 2 deputy chiefs that work on days. One of the deputy chiefs also does training, and one of them helps with the fire prevention, fire inspection side. So we're similar, except that my 2 day guys aren't deputy chiefs, but they're fire marshals, but they're doing, or our staffing model is similar. So with the 6 firefighters on duty in Bridgeton, 6, that gives them they actually staff 5 per day. And when I talked to their chief, I said, how do you do that? And they use a tremendous amount of overtime. I'm not looking to have 6 firefighters in shift and work with 5, but my goal is to get to 4. So you can see, the square miles, that's a challenge. That's where the response times come in. They're a lot smaller. Population similar. We have obviously more fire calls than they do, and more EMS calls. So, but as a comparison, we're a little bit bigger and a little bit busier, but we have a few less firefighters. So I thought that, like I said, that's a good comparison because that's kind of apples to apples. So the next slide coming up, I believe, is going to be a quick little video from the national, or about the National Fire Protection Standard, with 1710, which is, so where do I come up with we need 4 firefighters? Is that my opinion? No, it's a scientific fact that's been proven out through studies. And this video, I think, does a really good job of explaining that. But it's not the next slide, it's after this. So what does NFPA 1710 say? So I'll tell you, and then we'll watch the video. So it says that there should be 15 firefighters in 8 minutes for a residential building fire, 4 firefighters per apparatus. Okay, so and you can see there, NFPA 1710 establishes 2 response times, 4 minutes or less for arrival of the first engine company. We're very close. I told you we're a little over 5 minutes. Based on our geography, I think that's good. So we're very close there. 8 minutes or less for the deployment of first alarm assignment, so 15 firefighters in 8 minutes. That's a challenge. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Director. So 15. So I only have 16 volunteers. If I got half of them, would be a really good day. That would be 8. We're still not at 15. So we have a box alarm system, and when we have any report of a working structure fire in the city of Mill, we automatically bring mutual aid in. So we have Vineland Ladder 2, Cedarville, Rosenhain, and Down Township coming in. So we get 15, we probably get 20 or more firefighters on the first alarm, but they're not coming from 420 Buck Street. They're coming from our neighbors. And we do the same thing. We help them, but it's mutual aid coming in. So we're struggling. We're not going to get 15 firefighters in 8 minutes. We're going to get 15 firefighters there. But there's a little bit of time there. And then, of course, the 4 firefighters per apparatus, we're at 3 most of the time. So where I'm going is, like I said, the time, you look at the 4 minutes, we're close. I'd like to get to the 4 firefighters and apparatus, and then we can say we are making a really good effort to meet NFPA 1710. Here's a little schematic. So why do you need 15 firefighters? And this little drawing kind of basically shows everything. And we do all this, obviously, on a fire, but the goal is that all of this takes place simultaneously, not incrementally. And unfortunately, right now, a lot of this is done incrementally. Sometimes it's within minutes of each other because the companies are coming in. But in the ideal world, in the world, if everything was perfect, all these firefighters would show up at the same time and do all these jobs at the same time. Some of the jobs are obviously much more important. They're all important, but you know, you'll see there, like, you need to have crews that can stretch the hose lines to put the fire out. At the same time, though, someone has to be searching for victims. So sometimes, and then you need a backup hose line, and like I said, all these things should be happening simultaneously. And again, the video I'm going to show you is where did you come up with 15, where did you come up with 4? They did studies where they took vacant homes and they spent years and they would set them on fire and they would send fire crews there, and it was NIST, the National Institute for Standards, and they would send 2-man crews, 3-man crews, 5-man crews, 4-man crews, and have them do all these different jobs and time them and work through it to come up with, so it wasn't just an opinion, there was some scientific fact behind how do we come up with these numbers.
You may have heard about NFPA 1710, the industry standard for career fire departments. But what is it? And what does it mean for our community? Your house is on fire. It's your worst nightmare. In just 3 minutes, a fire can grow 16 times larger than when it started. And it continues to grow bigger and faster every second. Once the clock starts ticking, there's a shrinking window of opportunity to save lives and property. You want a full crew of firefighters to put it out quickly, or you may suffer a catastrophic loss. But how many are enough? 50, 20, 40? How do you decide? Fortunately, there's an internationally recognized industry standard. It's called NFPA 1710, and it's based on scientific evidence and research that establishes how many firefighters are needed to put out each fire and rescue anyone trapped. At a fire scene, you want a firefighter doing every job that needs to be done to save you and your house. And at a fire, there's a lot that needs to be done, like stretching the hose, hooking to a hydrant, searching for trapped people, venting the hot gases, and much more. For a low-hazard single-family house fire, NFPA 1710 specifies a minimum of 15 firefighters dispatched in the initial alarm. At an open-air strip shopping center or garden apartment fire, the standard specifies a minimum of 28 firefighters dispatched in the first alarm. And for fires in high-rise buildings at least 7 stories tall, the data show that the initial dispatch should be for a minimum of 43 firefighters, and that fire departments should send additional firefighters to situations that are beyond the capability of the initial alarm. When considering crew size on each engine and truck responding to a fire, the standard says that in low-hazard response areas like residential neighborhoods, the required number of firefighters on each fire engine and truck is 4. In areas with a high number of incidents or geographic restrictions like narrow roads, single-access bridges, or islands, a minimum of 5 firefighters on each fire engine and ladder truck is required. And in dense urban areas with high hazard occupancies like high-rise buildings, the minimum number of firefighters on each fire engine or truck is 6. Regardless of the type of property, 1710 also sets the time of arrival on scene within 4 minutes for the first engine with 4 firefighters. The 1710 standard for both response time and crew size is based on scientific evidence, not opinion. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, known as NIST, and its partners conducted extensive research to document the optimal crew sizes for various types of structures. As a decision maker, you and firefighters share a common goal. Everyone gets out alive. So when a house is on fire, just remember, it takes a minimum of 15 firefighters to put it out. And the responding crews should have the right number of firefighters on each engine and truck. The quicker the response time, the better the outcome for everyone. For more information, talk to your local firefighters. Thanks for listening, and stay safe.
So I think that video pretty well lays it out. So like I said, there's some challenges there for us, but there's some opportunities. The 15 on the first alarm, we do have that dispatched, but like I said, that involves also bringing in our mutual aid companies. But we can meet that target of, I believe, of 4 on an engine, and that's a big box we can check off, hopefully, in the immediate future. So that's I see that as one of the opportunities we have to address one of the challenges facing the fire department. So I'm going to close with, there's a video I'm going to show. I'm probably jump around a little bit because it's about 14 minutes, and I know everybody doesn't want to sit through that. This is a fire that we just had recently, right before Thanksgiving, and it's a fire in a single-family dwelling, okay? Fire had a pretty good hold of the structure, probably before we were even dispatched. Arrived on location, heavy fire conditions, and there was 5 firefighters working that day because it was during the day. It was there was the 3 on the shift. Fire marshal was out doing inspections. The other one was off for the holiday, and I was working. So we arrived, and what you're going to see in the video is that, so there's a lot of jobs that have to be done, and so we're scrambling around, we're getting it done, we got water on the fire right away. The best way to put out a fire is to get inside and get up close, get to what we call the seat of the fire. So you're going to see that. One of the firefighters is wearing a helmet cam video. It's a great opportunity to see what it's like inside a fire. It is not like Hollywood or Chicago fire. You look for the orange and send the water in that direction. But a couple of things I want you to know, especially in the beginning, you're going to see as the crews they're stretching hose lines, you're going to see people not in the video, obviously. They're hooking up the fire hydrant because of the amount of fire. We don't want to send anyone in until we have a water supply. So it takes a couple minutes for all that to get done, and then the crew's ready, and they go inside to make the interior attack. In the meantime, you'll see real quick in the video, I'm standing in the driveway getting the first water on the fire. And the reason I point that out is that, and the director and I have talked about this, I mean, I would never say that's not my job, but my job at a fire is to run the fire, make sure the resources that are needed are coming in, and that I have the firefighters back from a safety standpoint. And it's tough to do that when you're task-oriented. Incident commanders are not supposed to get involved in tasks, but we do what we have to do. And I'll fast forward to the end of the video, and I'll show you why that's so important, because once we got things up and running, I was able to step back. We had a structural collapse, and I was able to pull the guys out. And you're going to see on the video, they look like they've done a really good job on this fire on the inside. But what they didn't realize was the fire had extended up into the void spaces into the attic. We had a partial collapse. I pull them out, and they'll look like, oh, come on, Chief, we almost had this. And then you'll see one of them look up, and the entire top of the house is on fire. That's because I was able to make that call and watch that if I'm doing tasks and stuff. But anyway, it's a really good video. I think it just kind of shows what your fire department does a couple times every month, and the dedication and hard work that these folks do.
One thing I want to add is,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Director.
I want everybody to think about where they live. The newer developments, you go watch a fire in the newer development. My house, Joe's house, Ben's house, this fire department's going to save our house. You see this fire and inside, this house goes.
Yeah, so what the director, homes today are, I'm sure we all know they're built differently. They're not built with dimensional lumber. 2x4 is not a 2x4 anymore. A lot of them are held together with glue and gusset plates, staples. So fires it's almost counterintuitive, but fires in a home built 50 or 100 years ago, I'll take one of them every day because those places hold up. We'll gut the side of a duplex and we'll tear that side of the duplex down, and the other side, the people still live in it. New homes built in the last 15, 20 years, they go fast, and you'll see here, they're not in there for 10, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever, and the thing starts to come apart and collapses. So and that's everywhere in the country. So we're hitting it. This is what we like to call hitting it hard from the yard. We're hitting it from the outside while the guys are gearing up, getting their masks on and stuff to get ready to go inside and make a push to get to the seat of the fire. So with 2 minutes, 15 seconds in, now they're ready. We've knocked down a lot of the fire on the outside. The crew's going to go inside.
Yeah. So we're working the back, but you got fire going all the way through. All right. So
Our goal here was we were trying to cut the fire off from the rest of the house. Started in the garage.
I got it. You see it, fire. Got one behind the two. Come. Just like it. This out. Copy that. All right. All right. Here. One.
So where they're at on the first floor, it's starting to look pretty good.
Hello. All right, Kyle.
That was the first collapse. Second collapse.
Same location.
More power. Clear it. Let's go. Let's go.
Personally, right there, that's when the second collapse happened, and the chief was calling on the radio, and the guys in the truck were pulling the air horns for these guys to get out of there. I don't want to stand next to the chief again. I know it's gonna happen. And watch his emotion, sit there and watch. Final firefighters and everything, they knew what happened with those air horns. And everybody was like,
Watch, he takes a look up. This is what they didn't see. So as the director said, yeah, it was a little tense. I've been on both, like you said, I really hope it never happens again, but inevitably it will. I've been on both sides of that. I've had to, where's Haley at? Where was that fire at? Mulberry Street, yeah. So the infamous Mulberry Street fire where some of us had to jump off a porch roof. I've been on both sides of it, and I'd rather be the guy jumping off the roof than the one standing outside feeling like you're helpless. But the reason showing the video, a lot of stuff going on. It's firefighting is at its core, is a labor-intensive, blue-collar job. It's hard, hot, heavy work, and it's manpower-intensive. So we had Vine in there. We had the resources coming. We had resources there. The guys made a very valiant effort to try to save the house, to stop the fire. It had a head start on us. It was lightweight construction. So, you know, in the end, it was a loss as far as the property. But I also think it gives a good picture of like what it's like inside a fire, what they're going through as far as the visibility and things like that. So I'm going to end it up there. I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to come here. All I'm asking for is that moving forward, you know, that we continue to try to grow the fire department. Again, I realize we're not going to change it overnight or add tremendous amounts of staff, but we've done a good job over the years of incrementally, and I'd like to incrementally continue to do that. Like I said, I asked for 2 in the budget, and we can talk about that, you know, over the next couple months. And I'm a realist, but I'm really hoping that somehow we can find a way to do that, because if we can get the 2 additional and get those 3 shifts to 5, we'll be much closer to having 4 on duty 24/7, and that'll certainly it won't solve all our issues, but it'll make us a lot closer to being better able to do our job. So with that, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
I just have a couple of comments, Mike. First of all, appreciate what you guys do. Second, I know in those budget meetings, I kind of give you a hard time, make you justify everything, and
No.
you do that.
No, you don't.
But you do that. You justify everything. I can tell you guys, he has your back. And obviously, by the number of guys here and ladies here, you have his back, and that's a tribute to his leadership skills. And we're all lucky we have him, so thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And we do debate, but you know what? I've told Director Hewitt this, I have absolutely no problem going to a budget hearing and facing tough questions, because I like to think I have the answers, but I also appreciate people wanting to pull out of me like, you know, well, why do you need this? And I don't have a problem doing that.
I'm like kind of lost for words after watching that video. It's overwhelming what you guys do on a daily basis, and you know, with my brother being a cop, and it's a little bit of a different work and world for you guys, and that's somebody's house that you're going into, and you're not thinking about, oh, I'm breaking a window or I'm ruining a nursery, then you're just trying to save their home. And I think you made more than enough valid points as to why we need to meet the minimums. I think one of my questions, though, is that I kept hearing in the video that there's requirements. If you're not meeting those requirements, are there?
Good, excellent question, because, and I should have clarified that, because NFPA 1710, National Fire Protection Association, that's a national, it's a standard. It is not in any way a law,
Okay.
a statute, or a requirement. The National Fire Protection Association, well, that was standard 1710, so that's one of like thousands of standards they put out.
Okay.
But what it is a consensus across the country of where some communities, some authorities having jurisdiction will adopt NFPA and make it their, but it is in no way requirement. The staffing of your fire department is absolutely a local decision on all that. But when you have those discussions and you say, well, where do you start? You start with the NFPA standard.
Well, I think this was very, very informative to myself, and I'm sure others as well. And I thank you, but I cannot thank everybody in this room, everybody that volunteers and does this as a career. It's a thankless job, and I thank you for doing it and making that your choice.
Thank
and
you.
I hope that as a commission we can move forward. I think that,
I'm going to be pushing it. It's,
and
you know, they're.
I'll support it.
We depend on them as residents. Let's forget we're
Absolutely.
commissioners and our families, and they depend on us to go home from every fire.
And, you know, with a couple exceptions, and even some of them, they're just over the city line. Pretty much all the staff lives, and the volunteers all doing, almost all the full-time staff, they're also residents, most of them born and raised here, taxpayers in the city of Millville. So they understand, too, about budgets and taxes and things like that. But, you know, like I said in the beginning, we talk about strengths and challenges. This is the strength of the fire department right here.
Yeah, this is a great appreciation, especially for us to see. But you know, even you asked, you know, you said earlier, 420 Buck Street. People see it's a fire station, and there's fire trucks. I almost want to say, like, having a night where maybe if the community does have questions or to say, other than like, as I remember as a little kid growing up in the safety house, and you know, the smoke when I went to Mount Pleasant as a little one. But to the public, I think it'd be very eye-opening. I mean, other than us and the community, you know, of that, we know there's only one fire station and there's 44 square miles. Chief, like you and I, we live in West Millville. It's over a mile to the nearest fire hydrant. Carmel Fire doesn't exist for me anymore. So we take for granted for where we live. I like where I live, but sometimes when there is a fire down my way, we're out in West Millville, it's a opening and it's a refresher to be like, there are these challenges for our fire department, but you guys adapt, you overcome. You know, between all of us, you know, we all appreciate each and every one that you do. I know a lot of you guys, but once again, just thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If I may, I had two very close relatives, two separate fires, lost most of their home and most of what was in it. One was in Millville, the other one was in Vineland. So the appreciation I have for any fire department is pretty big. It was very eye-opening for me. So while I have the opportunity, thank you so much.
Thank you, and welcome aboard, Commissioner.
And in closing, guys, girls, thank you. I'll probably catch you tomorrow or the next day, if I can get around to it. Thanks a lot for everything that all of you do. Chief,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. And look, we got time.
And that will bring us to our public comment on agenda items only for this evening. Anybody wants to make a comment on agenda items, you can come to the podium, state your name, and comment. Okay, seeing nobody, we'll close the public comment for this evening for agenda items, and we'll go to the discussion of commissioners. Commissioner Romanek.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, fellow commissioners. Hearkening recent events, you know, thank you to public safety for that decision on closing just that one block for the Winter Wonderland, making people freely cross the street. That was nice just to be able to experience downtown Millville and that whole event, and I'll talk more about that in regular session. Millville Christmas Parade, huge turnout involvement. That was very well done. Once again, talk more about that. But we probably all are aware that our local high school has won the first ever state champion. Wondering if there's any idea that we do anything.
I'll announce it. Yeah, I'll make it.
Just curious. But other than that, I'll save everything for the regular agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hewitt.
Right now, I'm just going to echo my first thoughts. I just want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. Chief, for putting on that presentation. Chief Fellis, you're next, maybe next month or so, you know.
I'm sure he's ready.
I think it's good for the commissioners to know. I think it's good for the residents to know. And I want to thank you all for it. And at this point in time, Mayor, progress.
Awesome. Thank you. Commissioner Watson, would you have any comments for our work session this evening?
Well, I had a lot of catching up to do, but just want to say thank you again to our Millville Fire Department and all the public safety. Thank you for the presentation. Definitely an eye-opener. I don't know how they do what they do. Very happy to be here, very excited to work with everybody. Thank you.
Glad to see you're feeling better in here with us.
Me too.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Sure. Well, in order to get you firefighters, you know, we need economic development, so I had some updates on a couple of those projects. At a regular meeting, Collective 60 will be here, which is the cannabis company, giving a presentation, which when that project goes through, that will result in a substantial amount of revenue to the city. The Wheaton project, we had to cut off some water lines that went under, as luck would have it, a burned out building. So that was an 8-inch main that we cut and capped and then restored water service to the fire hydrant, which will be used in the demolition. The DeSantis group has sent over estimates of what the recyclables will be. You know, the demolition will result in recyclables. We get credit for that from Clean Communities, so that will be a boon to our Clean Communities budget. The rescue squad building, unfortunately, we found some asbestos we weren't expecting under a roof that was placed over an old one. It looks like we had it tested today. We'll know. They probably know already, but I don't know yet. So we'll know tomorrow if we have to adjust that price. Maybe we'll get really lucky, but I doubt it. We don't get lucky with stuff like that. And with that, progress.
Thank you. A lot of good stuff happening. Again, thank you both, Chief Levencock, Chief Elvis, for being here, and your crews. Thank you for volunteering. There's not enough thank yous that can go around. I think it is very important. I've said this from day one, educating and communicating. You as chiefs communicating to us as the commission, communicating to your cities and educating us is key. And I think it's very important for us as commissioners to know what's going on a daily basis in your world, because it helps us make better decisions for the city up here. And again, I think that has to happen all around, communication and education. So thank you for that. I think that I really don't have much for right now, but I know that Commissioner Romanek, I always call you Benjamin, sorry. It's habit.
It's all right, Mayor.
Mentioned we had a really great event this past Saturday at the Winter Wonderland. We had a lot of great volunteers around the city come together as far as on High Street, all the businesses that were involved, and it was just a great event. I can't say enough of it. There were so many cheerful faces out, all the kids running around, getting to see Santa Claus, and the Grinch was another huge hit. So I just want to make sure I thank the individuals who volunteered their time to be there and make that event possible. So that's all I have for this time.
Can I have just one more thing?
Absolutely.
I also forgot to mention that we signed the closing documents for Livoni yesterday, so that'll be another rateable to the city. Looking forward to that project. Sorry for the interruption. I wanted to make sure.
Yes, that's also more progress too on our economic development, and
Thanks to Mr. Camperi for much of this.
yes, our business administrator, Mr. Camperi. Thank you. I know we have challenges every day, and Can't thank you enough. So I can just go to closing or public comment for this portion of the meeting. If anybody has a comment they would like to bring to the commission, please state your name at the podium and address your concerns or comments. Don't all jump up at one time. Seeing nobody, will close the public comment portion of this meeting and go to closing comments. We'll just go down the line. Any closing comments?
All good.
Commissioner Watson, any closing comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay,
Nothing.
I'm good.
good. We're all good. We will see everybody at 7 o'clock, and just need a motion. Oh, wait, there's a closed session. It's at the
Yep.
bottom of the page, sorry.
Very large.
There's a resolution.
Okay, so we have a resolution authorizing a closed session for the following matters. The first is Worldwide Jet, 25 Airwork Street, under contract negotiations. The second is request for amendment to professional services contracts for public defender, under contract negotiations. The third is discussion of Excel settlement proposal, under attorney-client privilege and deliberative process. And the fourth is 2 North High Street, under contract negotiations.
Make motion.
Second motion.
I have a motion and second. There's no comment because there's a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hewitt?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sui?
Yes.
Commissioner Romanek?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Orndorff?
Yes,
Okay, motion carries.
we'll be back. just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?